Hello, everyone, and welcome to Garden Gossip, the home and garden show, with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Welcome to Garden Gossip, everyone. Today's show is all about the most visited public garden in America. We're talking about Longwood Gardens, which is in Kennett-Square-Pennsylvania, near Chadds Ford, where Nancy and I stayed. We stayed at the beautiful Wild Wisteria Bed and Breakfast, and they told us we need to go to Longwood Gardens. And they even purchased, they're the newer owners of the property, and they even purchased their bed and breakfast to be near Longwood Gardens because, Cindy Eck, one of the innkeepers, Brad and Cindy has traveled all over the world to visit gardens, botanical gardens, and so she said, that's it, we need to be near Longwood, and we totally understand, right, Nancy, having been there, and even her B&B, yeah, it's beautiful, even their B&B is kind of themed after the gardens are themed, I mean, there's the gardens, the Longwood Gardens is over 1,100 acres, which, but they kind of have like a little inspiration, I should say, from Longwood Gardens. Really amazing, over 20 indoor gardens, 20 outdoor gardens. There's meadows. Oh, Nancy, the meadows with all the swallowtails. It's beautiful. Right. Woodlands and all the fountains. Just an absolutely incredible place to visit in southern Pennsylvania. So I encourage you to go to their website, longwoodgardens.org, and, of course, go there. That's even better. So very excited to have Patricia Evans join us from the gardens. Welcome, Patricia. How are you?
Hi, Lisa. I'm great. I'm so glad to be here today.
Hey, we are glad to have you too. I mean, you work in a botanical garden in the most visited one in the country.
I know, how cool.
I know. Like, can I have your job?
That's so lucky. Yeah, really. It's so lucky.
I am very lucky. You're absolutely right. I work in one of the most beautiful places in the world.
You do. And the gardens has a little bit of everything. I think Nancy and I managed to cover a lot of ground, literally. The only thing we didn't get to do was the Ideas Garden when we were there, and just because you had a summer storm, and, we didn't want to get zapped and have curly hair, but we do need curly hair to look a lot better. But, really amazing, the fountains and all the varieties of gardens, even like the topiary garden, that was incredible. That's got to be a favorite for families.
Yeah, I think when people come to Longwood, Lisa, some know what to expect and some don't. And I think that's really what is so great about Longwood is that there is so much to see. And even if you don't really think that you're a garden person, and there's a lot of people out there who may not think that they're a big horticulture lover, when you come to Longwood, you're going to find something that you love or something that resonates with you. I think everybody loves to look at beautiful things, but we also have fun and whimsy in our topiary garden, and we have fountains that are just wow and amazing. And we have so many other spaces that people just can't help but enjoy.
It's amazing.
Well, everybody was smiling,
That is true. I think everybody comes to Longwood and they just take a deep breath and they relax and they unwind and you just kind of get rejuvenated.
Yeah, it's an amazing place.
I really enjoyed the variety to me, and the meadow garden to me. I have a thing about meadows, and like when I see a meadow, I just want to roll in there, But
I know,
meadows,
you can't go roll in it.
I know, but the wildflowers, and it's cool because you have like an ADA accessible boardwalk area, but then you also have it where people can go, like I'm going hiking for the time while I'm there. So that's a nice blend that you don't always see in a garden is actual trails.
Yeah, I mean, our meadow garden is 86 acres, and it really is kind of what I like to think of the wild side of Longwood. We sort of have some very formal gardens, but we also have some more naturalistic landscapes as well, and the meadow is one of them. That doesn't mean that our horticulturists don't work very hard at keeping the meadow in the shape that it is, because it still requires the hand of man. But the meadow is a wonderful, open, expansive space where you can, take a brief walk through the meadow, or as you said, you can explore our more than 3 miles of trails that go throughout the meadow. And it really is the quintessential example of the beautiful Brandywine-Valley landscape that southeastern Pennsylvania is known for.
Yeah, the Brandywine landscape, because you're also near where the Brandywine battle happened. But I was also reading that it's interesting because the land that you're on was originally William Penn's land, right? That was his property at one point.
Yes, correct. It was a land grant from William Penn, and it was given to a family by the name of Pierce a few hundred years ago, and they had a set of cousins in that family who loved to go basically plant exploring. They were early plant explorers, and they went up and down the East Coast, and they brought back trees and other plants from their travels, and they built an arboretum. And as time passed, this arboretum became very well known in the area. And it was in 1906 that the property had fallen out of that family's hands, and it was slated to be sold for lumber. And our founder, Longwood's founder, Pierre DuPont, got wind of this and found out and purchased the property and purchased the lumber contracts and saved the trees, and then went about building Longwood, and that was in 1906.
Wow, well, thank goodness for that, because really, the idea of tearing that down,
Yeah. So he was well before his time. He was an early philanthropist and naturalist, and of course a brilliant businessman. But he always had a love and passion for gardening, and that just speaks volumes every day at Longwood.
I love it because, you think about the trees being old growth as well now, having saved the Arboretum, but also you get to go into their house and really had this really cool display where you can hear their story, not just, look at exhibits, but it's interactive. And it's just there. I like it because it really gets into the mind of someone who's a total plant geek and saves seeds and doesn't walk by without trying to take a little nip and tuck and grow something.
That's right. That's a gardener at heart, right? So, Pierre was very much that, and we're very fortunate in that he kept so many of his papers and his plans, and we use that in our archive at Longwood to really, enrich the experience for all of our guests. So we really do have a very rich history and understand what Mr. DuPont's vision was, and we follow that today.
And where did the fountains come in? Because you are known for your fountain display. You have that giant, how many, there's that show, the different fountain shows that you have throughout the day. How many fountains are in that one? Because you have like the Italian ones, and there's water everywhere.
There's water everywhere. Well, you're talking about the main fountain garden, which I would say is sort of the crown jewel of all of the fountain gardens that we have at Longwood, and that one has 1,719 jets. So that's just one of many. And Mr. DuPont, how he became so known for our fountains is throughout his lifetime, Mr. DuPont loved to travel to Europe, and he went to the grand gardens of Europe. So he went to Versailles, he went to the Villa Gambaraia in Italy, and he went to all these places where there was terrific fountains. And he always had in the back of his mind, I would love to have something like that at home. So he brought back many of these ideas and implemented them at Longwood. And he says in his writings that he always had a fascination with the sound of water as a child. So you will find water features throughout our indoor and outdoor gardens, not just our fountain gardens, but in any garden you might find a small fountain or a single jet fountain. But water is a characteristic that you will see throughout Longwood.
Well, it's relaxing. The sound of water just makes people relax.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think a lot of people just like to sit and listen to the water.
And I think now in time of social distancing and kind of the world's a little crazy, just saying.
Just a little.
It's a good thing. Just a little. The gardens are one of those places that you can go, and what I like is you can social distance there, and you even time how many visitors can come in. And that's got to be a change for you guys since you're the most visited garden. Right.
Yes, we have always done time tickets at Longwood so that we can sort of pulse our guests in, and everybody can have a good experience and enjoy the gardens without too many people in the gardens at any one time. But we certainly have decreased our capacities as we reopened after COVID-19 epidemic came through, and we're down to about 35% of our typical capacity. So it is, much fewer people in the gardens, but we do have over 400 acres open to the public. The whole property is about 1,100, but a lot of that is back of house infrastructure and growing areas. But so there is plenty of room across that 400 acres for people to spread out and have a time of beauty and to feel safe in these uncertain times.
You talk about the back of house and the growing areas. You also do a lot of plant research. So that's part of the Longwood Gardens experience is finding and growing plants and doing research, and education is also part of that the whole makeup of the nonprofit.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a very important aspect of our program. We have basically sort of three pillars in our mission. One is horticulture, which is both the art and science of horticulture. Our second pillar is horticultural education, and we have programs for K through 12 all the way through postgraduate. And we also value the performing arts because Mr. DuPont loved to use the gardens to entertain. And he had, an organ, which you probably did not get to see because the ballroom is closed during this time. But we have one of the largest residential organs in the world at Longwood. We have a 10,010-pipe Aeolian organ.
Cool.
And Mr. DuPont built this because he loved the performing arts, and he wanted to share that with his guests in the garden. So that is something that we continue to do today when we're able to.
Wow. That's really cool. The other thing that you said is tree houses.
Yeah. Yes. We added our tree houses in 2008. And, the funny thing about that was we thought this would be a wonderful thing for our younger guests to enjoy. Who doesn't love a tree house? And we opened them, and they were so popular, but we discovered that adults love them just as much as the kids.
For sure.
Brought back a lot of memories for a lot of our adults about their childhood tree houses. But the reason we did that was, we were basically, as I said, founded on this desire to save some historic trees. So trees are very important to us. So we wanted people to sort of look up and away from, looking at the gardens and seeing the color in the gardens. People just kind of sort of sometimes look down and walk along the paths. We wanted them to look up. So we put these tree houses in so people would appreciate the tree canopy. That really is the backbone of Longwood, as well as have a terrific time. And that has worked out tremendously.
Cool. Now, the other part is, being, the most visited public, garden in the country. You're also in the garden capital. That was something we didn't know until we set foot at the gardens. We just literally arrived in Pennsylvania, and you're like, hey, welcome to the garden capital. Like, really? How cool.
Yeah, it is cool. It is really one of the best things about the Philadelphia region is that we are America's garden capital, we like to say. We have more than 30 public gardens within 30 miles of Philadelphia. So it really is the largest concentration of gardens in the U.S. And there are smaller gardens and there are big gardens like Longwood. So if you are a garden lover, this is the place to come and really spend a week or two maybe, going to all of these tremendous gardens and really appreciating the role of public gardens and the beauty that they can add to a region.
That's cool. I think so. That could be a whole, escape. But we think about gardens in summer and spring, maybe early fall. What's it like on a seasonal basis in the gardens? Because when we're there, it's summer, it's beautiful, everything's lush and green. Are you open in the winter? Because Nancy and I aren't used to snow. We have no clue about these real four seasons that you have.
Right. Yeah. Well, we do have four seasons, but at Longwood we actually have five because we count the Christmas holiday as a season. So January through March, I will say that the majority of our display is inside our conservatory. And when I talk about our conservatory, it is 4 acres under glass, 20 indoor gardens. So you could spend hours in our conservatory and never step foot outside into the outdoor gardens and still have a tremendous experience. So January through March, obviously, most of our colorful display is inside. If you like to take a walk in the winter landscape, you're perfectly welcome to do that. You can see the bones of the garden and the beautiful form of the trees outside, but primarily the biggest part is in the conservatory. In the spring is when the outdoor gardens really come to life. We still have a display in our conservatory every day of the year, but in spring we have probably over 250,000 bulbs that spring into life during the months of April and May around the gardens. And it really is one of the most beautiful times outdoors at Longwood. You kind of get that smell of freshly cut grass again, and you start to see color popping up everywhere, and it really is a tremendous experience. And I would just point people to our Flower Garden Walk, which since 1907, that was our first walk at Longwood, our first flower garden at Longwood, and it is a highlight throughout the year, but it's particularly spectacular in spring.
That was
Summer
incredible.
Did you got a chance to go down that? Yeah.
That flower walk, Nancy, those little pathways and, oh my gosh. And the little water features like you were saying. But the color, it was just intoxicating, like super cool.
It is, yeah, and we hope that when you're walking around the gardens, no matter what season you're there, that you're getting ideas. And, even if you don't try it to that scale at home, maybe you decide to try to plant a container and put it on your deck, or maybe you decide to do a vegetable garden. But really, that's part of the reason that we want to be there, is to inspire people, to maybe garden at home, but if nothing else, to have an appreciation for nature.
Yeah, I think the children's garden is something that parents might consider, because the kids really love that. And it's a great way to introduce them to plants and how to care for them and to respect them and not trample them, So I really like I like kids' gardens,
Yes, absolutely. And we have an indoor one and an outdoor one because we want to attract kids all year round to the value and beauty of gardens. And we do try to make them fun spaces where they can touch the plants safely, splash in some fountains, and have a good time, and realize that gardens can be fun and beautiful, and that plants serve a very important purpose in our world.
Yeah, for sure.
They do. It's a beautification. I think the more gardens and green spaces we can incorporate, the better. I mean, I want to see more businesses do it. Just because if you're in an industrial park doesn't mean you can't have some gardens going on. It's just quality of life for everybody at work. I mean, you're happy you work in a garden.
Yeah, exactly.
Aren't we all happy in the green space? And it's good for, butterflies and plants. And, I mean, just the birds are happy. I mean, that's the thing. There were butterflies everywhere. Yeah. I mean, that was so cool. That's to me that highlight.
Well, you're so right about attracting kids to nature and how important that is. And that's, we talked about education being one of our missions at Longwood. And that's one of the initiatives that we've started with a number of corporate partners across the country and educational institutions, including Scholastic. And it's called Seed Your Future. And it really is designed to help kids in the 6th through 10th grade time in their lives to understand horticulture and to understand that there are careers in horticulture that they might be interested in pursuing, and to kind of start to build that next generation of gardeners and horticulturists and scientists who are going to continue to be, the pipeline for employees at public gardens. And it's so important because there are a lot of colleges that are eliminating their horticulture programs. There is always jobs that do not get filled every year in horticulture because we're looking for talent that is not coming through the schools. So we are doing our very best to start to raise awareness about the future and opportunities of horticulture for young people.
Oh, well, we're certainly going to need that for the future.
That's exactly right.
We need to save our trees and our plants and our green spaces. We're really going to need people that know how to do that.
Yep, exactly.
Well, do you have a volunteer program for folks who, maybe they're retired, or even the youth that can do some volunteering?
We do have a volunteer program. We have a very active volunteer program, both a teen volunteer program and an adult volunteer program. Our adult volunteer program, when we're at full strength, we typically have around 800 volunteers. Now, a lot of them are not working right now because of the COVID situation, but we look forward to having them back in the gardens as soon as we possibly can. And we do have a teen volunteer program through the summer where we have our teens come in and interact with our guests and help with learning opportunities for kids in the gardens and things like that. So, we rely on our volunteers heavily. They work in all aspects of the gardens, and many of them provide, such important talents and skills that we just could not run the garden without.
Yeah, wow. I'm glad for volunteers. I think that's what will happen to me. It's going to be parks and gardens. I'm retired and volunteer, and that's it. Well, gardens are a big park to me. That's it is a park. It is something, and having people learn to garden. I mean, even I'm not kidding around, but like cemeteries are also gardens, and that's who basically are taking care of historic cemeteries these days are gardeners, and a lot of cemeteries are going to disrepair and all that history. It's an interesting thing how gardeners play such a big role, even the beautifications of downtowns and all this good stuff. And so it's really great for folks from around the world to come and visit Longwood. What's happening for fall season? Do you have any activities planned? Especially with COVID, I didn't know if you guys were going to have your events.
Well, we're still going to certainly have our horticulture displays. Some of our concerts and things we obviously can't have right now, and we look forward to bringing them back as soon as we're able. But the fall at Longwood is always probably the most colorful season. The outdoor gardens are spectacular in September. The meadow is at its peak. You'll see goldenrod and such beautiful colors in the meadow in September. And then when we get into October, the trees begin to turn for fall. And inside we have our Chrysanthemum Festival. And we have one of the largest chrysanthemum shows in the country, where we do we have literally thousands and thousands of chrysanthemums on display, and it's beautiful, bold colors. We have sort of a highlight of the show is our Thousand Bloom, which is a single chrysanthemum plant with more than 1,000 blooms on it, and it takes us about 18 months to grow it. And last year we had just over 1,500 blooms, and it stands about 12 feet tall and about 10 feet wide, and it really just is amazing.
That's a big one.
That's a big one.
That's a real big one.
So it really is something to see. You would never know that chrysanthemums could be grown in these unique forms, and it's a nod to the Asian culture where that style originated. And we have sent some of our staff over the years to Japan to learn the ancient techniques and to bring them back and do them for our guests. So it really is a beautiful time in the gardens in October.
That's amazing.
I would encourage people to come.
I'm tripping out on that because you also had that stinky flower bloom. Stinky flower. What's the stinky? I saw that on your Instagram. What's that called?
That's a Titan arum. Some people call it a corpse flower because it tends to smell like rotting meat when it blooms. And we got ours in 2018 from the Chicago Botanical-Garden. And our gardener, Joyce Rondinella, has been working with that plant for the last couple of years, trying to coax it into blooming because they're not easy to get to bloom. And the plant is affectionately known as Sprout, and he decided to bloom in July. So we were very fortunate to have Sprout, put out the bloom, and we had a couple of stinky days, and it was just great. And guests loved to come and see it, and it was just a wonderful victory for Joyce and Longwood, and we look forward to taking care of Sprout, and hopefully he will bloom again in about 5 to 7 years.
Wow! So what makes them so stinky?
It is how in nature they would attract their natural pollinator, which is a dung beetle. So they give off that scent so they can attract their pollinator.
Wow.
So did you get dung beetles to do this?
Well, we actually hand-pollinated it. So
today my hand is a dung beetle. But this is what folks don't realize, how much work goes into this kind of horticulture, and that's to me fascinating that you're taking this on, and the fact, like you're saying, the chrysanthemum is 18 months. The stinky dung beetle flower takes 2 years, and then 5 to 7 years after that for blooming. I mean, when you think about all of this, how much patience goes into it, it's pretty incredible, and that's what
it's definitely a labor of love. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think going to work and being like, okay, today I got to find some dung beetles for my It's just funny.
Hey, it's a cycle of life. So after the chrysanthemums, then you start to play holiday season, right?
We do, yes. The Friday before Thanksgiving, we will open our holiday display, and that runs through the second week of January. And that's really when we deck the halls like nobody else. I mean, our entire conservatory is decked out in trees. We have 25-foot tall trees throughout the conservatory. Outside, we have more than 500,000 lights. We have strolling musicians. We have fountain shows. It really just is fire pits to warm yourself up by. It's just really a fabulous, over-the-top holiday display, and it really is a tradition for families to come every year in our area to Longwood and just kind of capture the holiday spirit.
It's got to be magical. I want to do that because it's just that whole setting. And the conservatory, I mean, this conservatory, it's massive. That is one big conservatory with, I mean, some of the plants and all the begonias and the bleeding hearts and all those tropical plants. I mean, that was just amazing.
It is amazing. Yeah, it's more than 4 acres under glass, and we have a changing display in there all the time. So every couple of weeks, there's new beds going in and new things to see. So yeah.
Wow.
So
oh my gosh.
You guys aren't bored at all.
No, we're not. I mean, we have, for example, we have an orchid room, because we have an amazing collection of orchids. We have 5 growing houses behind the scenes to contain all of our orchids, and as they bloom, we bring them into our orchid room. So there's about 200 to 300 orchids in that room every day, and 3 times a week we switch it out to bring in what's blooming next.
Oh my gosh.
So there's never a time where you're going to see the same thing. There's always going to be something different to see and learn about and explore when you come to the gardens.
Wow. That's a lot of orchids. I mean, Nancy and I are blown away. And listen, everyone, you got to go to the cafe area because there's squirrels that hang out there. Like, we had so much fun just relaxing in the cafe. It's cool. You can get a bite, enjoy. And but the whole garden's the one thing that we did get to experience. We love to pet sit, and so that's what we're doing right now as we record this. So if anybody hears a dog snoring or a cat meow, that's what's going on. It's not me making that sound.
Well, I've got a kitten on my lap right now.
I know, but you have resident cat. We do, yes. We got to see one at the DuPont house, and we're like, oh, it's the house cats. And they have their little food bowls, but apparently this, again, shows the cycle of life. It's the web of life going on.
Yes. Our cats are part of our integrated pest management program. So whenever we can use the most natural means for pest control, we do. And we have about 13 cats on the property. And we like to say that in exchange for room and board and medical care, they help us with our mousing. In the garden. So, and more than that, the guests love them, and they really are sort of ambassadors to our guests. And there's certain cats that sort of stay to their own areas, and then there are other cats who just love an audience and love to interact with the guests. But it is a highlight for many of our members who come frequently to check in on the cats, too, in addition to the guests.
See,
I can totally see that.
Yeah, there's a community up in Exeter, California. The Chamber of Commerce has a cat because he just showed up, Walter the cat, and he's ended up being painted in some of their murals in the downtown. But there are travelers that go to the office just to hang out with the cat, and then there's the locals who visit the cat, but travelers that miss their cats go visit Walter for a cat fix. So I can see this on both sides, the locals checking in. But so these are your members. Tell everybody about your membership program, because that's something that people can come in frequently, right, and get into different events. And
Yes. A yearly membership allows you to come to the gardens anytime throughout the year. And we have over 70,000 member households, which equates to about 125,000 individuals who are members. And and they, I think a lot of people love to come and check Longwood out at least every season of the year, right? So this is a great way to do it economically. And we have membership levels for singles all the way up to Gardens 5, which allows you to bring 5 people with you at any time with your membership. And it doesn't have to necessarily be the people in your household. It can be 5 friends. It could be the people in your household, or it could be 5 coworkers. Doesn't matter. So there really is a lot of flexibility to the program, and our members really do enjoy coming and take advantage of discounts in our gift shop and our restaurant and some other benefits as well.
See, that's a good holiday gift. Give the gift.
It's a great holiday gift.
It is a great.
That's a great idea. It's a wonderful Mother's Day gift too.
Yes, good one. Yeah. Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, it's all coming. Yeah. Yes. Year-round gifting of garden experience. I mean, who doesn't want that? That is awesome. I love that.
Right.
But that's a lot of members. Are they all from, Pennsylvania? Or are they from they
actually are spread out. We actually have members in most of the 50 states.
Wow.
Obviously, the majority are within probably a 3-hour drive time. But we do have members who are in other states, and they may have been local to Longwood and have moved, but they still want to support the gardens, or maybe they can only come once or twice a year, but they still keep the membership because they believe in the mission and the beauty of Longwood. So we're very fortunate to have really engaged and dedicated members.
Cool.
Wow, that's very cool. You guys rock, and everybody. Again, the heart of America's garden capital. You got to go. So go to longwoodgardens.org. I always stay in touch with websites. I always say this now, especially during COVID times. Things can always change, so, as we all know now, right?
Right.
So always good to go to the website and social media on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Am I missing anything else?
No, we're on it all, and you're right. Our website's the best place to see what's happening, what our hours are, and what's happening in the gardens right now.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really, really had an amazing time.
Yeah,
and,
we did.
I mean, we want to come back. I mean, there's no way, because there's no way you can see it all. I mean, how many plants do you think are I mean, when you're saying you're swapping out in the conservancy all the time, like how many? Yeah, I mean, this is
we have over 11,000 different kinds of plants on the property, different species of plants on the property. So, and we say that it takes at least 3 hours to kind of walk through the gardens. And for some people, it could take the entire day or multiple days, depending on how interested you are in stopping and sort of reading all of the information. But you do have to allow a few hours to really enjoy the gardens.
Yeah, I think definitely. I mean, we hauled and we were photographing, and yet we geek out. We want to see every plant. You know, it's like
exactly.
And if there's a butterfly, we're hanging out with you for a while. If there's a fountain, so we kind of ran around the garden to experience as much as we could. But to me, I would want to do like a different part of the garden each visit. And then I'd have to do multiple throughout the season, because it is one of those. Like, every gardener, you go through your garden at least twice a day as a gardener. I mean, at minimum. You want to see, did this bloom? So, what's going on here? Is this growing? So I can imagine if we lived there, we'd be there, I'd say, every week or two. Don't you think, Nancy?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, honestly, why not?
Absolutely.
We'd have to be a member. That's for sure.
Well, especially when the seasons change, I would definitely want to take in all the seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So,
do you get to go out and just enjoy the garden, or do you have to work all the time?
There are some days I am stuck at the desk, but I do make it part of my job to kind of go out and see what's happening, because part of my job is to tell people about the beauty of Longwood and what's blooming and what's happening today in the gardens, and you got to be out there to do that. So I do have the opportunity to take a quick walk at lunch and check in with the gardeners and see what they're excited about, and there's always something beautiful to see.
I'd be taking a picnic lunch out there every day. Like,
hey, it's like, sorry, this is my job.
I know. Today I'm sitting in the topiary for lunch. Okay, Today I'm going to the idea garden. I really want to do the idea garden, because I always think that they're so neat and spark the imagination, to what you can do. And it was just neat to be in a completely different growing zone too, after being in the desert area or the desert Southwest for so long. It was really just mind-blowing to see this whole other side of the country, and you guys are doing it well. So,
thank you. We are so glad that you came out to see us.
Thank you. And everyone, again, longwoodgardens.org is the website to go to. Thank you for joining us, Patricia. It's been a pleasure having you. And we want to close our conversation with a song, and this is dedicated to your conservancy at the gardens because of the orchids. It's called Orchids and Waterfalls. The fountains, you've got little waterfalls throughout the conservancy. There's water everywhere. And so if you're feeling any kind of stress or high blood pressure, if the elections are getting to you, you need to go to the garden. De-stress with all the birds and the butterflies and the flower power and the color. You're going to really de-stress a lot. So here it is, Orchids and Waterfalls. It's by Michael and Spider from their Iridescent Garden album. Thanks so much, Patricia.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Nancy. Stay well.
You too. Take care.
Take care.